Yes, I'm very.
Take your own responsibility. If you fall over, be responsible for yourself.
I just want to know what this is about. I'm quite entitled about it.
Typical council whispering. Whisper, whisper, whisper.
Ray has actually been very transparent over everything. He's been very helpful. I was difficult for him.
Until now,
Oh yes,
whispering.
you Ray, you've done well.
Whispering.
No, Ray's done well.
I don't think I'm sat here giving a verbal opinion. That's not remote.
I'm quite supportive of you, Ray. Well,
Bernie, if you'd have been aggressive before this started.
So I want that to.
The use of the word aggression is very convenient and always works in your favour. Not remotely. But if I come across aggressive, right now I apologise for that. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not remotely being aggressive.
Sorry, what's your name?
There you
Oh, I know it's a freezer name. Huh? Yeah, I don't think you want that.
Chair, when you start the meeting, is it possible that we can have the actual door open so maybe the people can hear outside? And then the questions what are put by us in here are actually translated out there. It's only your option, but maybe, you know, it might sway.
It's not even, it's not taking you. It's saying that how you think that's it, yeah.
I did hear the gentleman there addressing the chair. I was grateful to that. Yes, I'm not taking. I'm taking it back from here. I can't take it.
There's about 200 people out there, right? We're sitting there and they're all angry. So what are you going to do about it? First thing, the police there as well, because at least 200 people that are really angry. And you are the parish council for that. So this needs addressing immediately.
Voted by them.
I would say forget your agenda. That's just what's. And let's go forward to.
Have you any intention of discussing what's going on out there?
I think it is on the agenda.
I really do think there's a massive urgency that you should, for once in your life, right, take a risk, forget the agenda for now, maybe have another meeting about that, and adjust what's going on tonight and what's going on in the village. That's my input. Because I think waffling about what's
Karen?
Yes?
Without getting personal.
Yeah. Oh, no, Ray. Yeah, I'm not saying Ray.
Right, we're getting a
I'm
little
just
bit
advising
personal.
Ray, that's something I am.
But we're getting a little bit personal, yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
I think
This
there's a
sounds
way
it. You want to control this crowd, you need to adjust what's going on at the moment, that's all.
Karen, I'm with you.
I know you are, Bill. I know.
Just think, yeah, just think, yeah.
You
We
know,
don't need to go in
too many of them police control, and there's about 200 of them. So you want to actually do some productive, give some answers, that's all.
I think if it goes out on social media, what the question
Well,
is,
it is doing, it's going
That's
to.
the first time I've been.
So Ray, you need to actually maybe bypass what you think is important and maybe think this is more important because you are representative of our village. And the village counts, and this is the most important thing in the village at the moment. Nothing else matters.
Hear it.
Definitely.
Hear it.
Nothing else matters. No.
Everything else matters.
Oh yeah, eventually. Like I said, another, but not at the moment. Sorry, I don't know who you are. Yes, that's me. You're.
And me.
Ray said
And
200.
me. And me.
Ray said 200 out there.
200 out there.
Not just you, not just me. I'm just representing.
I would like to listen to what happened in the meeting.
Really?
Yeah, you're.
I'm not disrupting the meeting. I'm just telling you what I was saying. Don't tell me to shush. So I'll be going out there and telling them what you told me.
Good.
Karen, hold on, Karen.
I've been told.
Don't trust everybody with the same brush.
I welcome everybody here tonight. I decided that I would start the meeting at the appointed time. We still have one empty seat, and any member of the public is welcome to sit in that seat. And I welcome you to our standard, regular March Kegworth Parish Council meeting. For those of you who don't know, a parish council is a third tier of local government below county and district. In this case, Leicestershire County Council and North West Leicestershire District Council. All meetings are open to the public, so this could be going on in Colville, or it could be going on at Council Hall in Glenfield. It happens to be going on here, and you have chosen to come to a public session of a regular monthly parish council meeting. And the agenda was prepared in advance, as it always is, and we have a lot of business to conduct. It may be a little local thing, but we are not here to be addressed as individuals. We are here to be addressed as councillors. I won't get introductions. That will be my normal style, because at the end of the day, relationships in any community are about personal things. And I will quickly go around. Councillor, so you temporarily forgotten your other name. Will White, Councillor Hayden Stanley, Councillor Andrew Priestley, Councillor Ray Sutton, Chair, Andrew the Vice Chair. Donna Griggs, our clerk, Councillor Carol Sear, who's also a district councillor for part of Kegworth, but not all of it. Councillor Henry Williams, and you see, age, you see, Councillor Phil Gant. Okay. So we shall commence in the normal way when I can find my agenda, because I'm a bit distracted, and I'm pleased that we have got everybody listening, and that's the way I would like to conduct the meeting one at a time and using normal approaches. Yeah. So to receive apologies for absence. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, councillors, in any item on the agenda. None. My announcements, and I am going to do it as I've written it down. We're pleased that we've got the COVID benches in place. I'll be very quick about these routine things. We're pleased that the Village Hall car park has been repaired, now the potholes. I'm pleased to say that we have now councillors' bank authorisation online in place after a long time, and I did the first of those authorisations. There's 2 people out of a team to do it. This is Unity Trust Bank, if you remember, that we've finally gone to. The newsletter has been distributed. There was a bit of a hiccup from Rural Trader on one round, but they're all out now. It's nothing to do with today's meeting, but there is a scheduled police exercise in part of the village, and the residents concerned in importance. It's not a central part of the village, but I thought I'd mention that. Some correspondence about it, in case anybody hear about it. And we had a successful university liaison meeting. Grateful to Andrew and Hayden for attending that on our behalf. That was only on Thursday, and it was attended by members of the community and members of the university. Most in the village. So I now come to my introduction to public participation. First of all, I understand that we have one item that is an item on the agenda. So our discussed items are not pausing tactic. This is merely following routine standing orders. And I think we've got a comment. Do you mind standing up and telling us who you are? That will be the rule for everybody tonight. So if you, yours one as well, is it?
Yes, please. Oh, I don't. Not sure.
Planning application.
All right. Okay. Oh, yeah. No problem.
Any agenda items first, and then I'll deal with a non-agenda item. If you know what it is.
I'm agent for the second planning application on the agenda. Miles Hill Farm Kegworth with proposed use of agricultural land for most training park. And my client, the applicant, is here with me, Gary Taylor, and his wife. You just need to say a few words to introduce the application background to you. Just to Gary to explain his background. He is the person who's behind this whole project and looking to bring it forward in paper.
Hello everyone, hope everyone's good. So basically my background, from the age of 4, I was riding a motocross bike, went all the way up to professional riding, And then from that, I did freestyle motocross, so I was one of the crazy guys that backflip motorbikes. And now I'm at the stage in my career now where I'm teaching kids safely how to come up the ladder. And in Europe, a lot of the governments pay for stuff like that. So we haven't got nowhere safe for the kids to learn how to ride bikes. My mum and dad own the track. We didn't have anywhere where you could just teach them to ride it safely, basically. So I'll put in an application to do that, and then hopefully we can. Thank you, mate.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
The proposed from 10 to 4 on 4 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, bank holidays in addition 10 to 4, and then during the summer, Thursday evenings. We call them day life. So the site that we're talking about is over next to the motorway, and it's sort of sandwiched between the site the research to the motorway, but the farmers become we were doing that. The site has had permission before as a motocross training facility, but that permission lapsed, and the person behind that is no longer involved. Gary's now bringing it forward with this application. So just briefly, we've carried out ecology surveys, noise surveys, and have the highway surveys back up the application to make sure that everything is dealt with in terms of any technical constraints and environmental issues. We're not affecting any trees or hedgerows. We've designed the tracks around retaining all of those. Apart from the tracks being formed, which would simply just having the earth scraped back and using that earth to form some jumps. No, we wouldn't be importing those materials or anything. We're just going to have a parking area, portable buildings for toilets and signing in, and a area for people who are bringing the riders to stay and watch. Not proposing spectator events or competitions. And that's about it, really. So, I think despite everything that's going on, and happy to answer.
Caroline, thank you very much. And I don't wish to cut you short. And Carol has already intervened and asked a question. But councillors, we've got all these details in our papers, including those times. And unless there's anything really pressing, councillors, I would suggest we thank Caroline and thank you very much. And Gary, it's really, really good to have the real story, and that really adds some weight to what we'll be looking at in our agenda. Okay, so thank you for that. Now, councillors, I do propose under standing order 3E that we accept questions on an item not on the agenda. Is there a seconder for that motion? Second. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So I'll now take questions on any matter not on the agenda. I'd like to take one at a time. If you would be ready with a question, if possible. If you're making a comment, could you say comment, and then we'll hear it. And if Donna can note anything down, she will. But if it's a question, that's better. And if you say a question or tell us your question, Donna will write it down. We'll see whether we can answer it. And if you stand up and say your name, please, as well, that would be really helpful. And this is what our standing orders say. It's not me making it up. And thank you very much indeed for your attention so far. Now, it's been a good meeting so far. I will just start by saying that this council believes in relation to the ex-U Lodge Hotel, it's no longer U Lodge Hotel as we knew it. This council, I think, as a third-tier parish council, has gone above and beyond in what it has done. And I would like to take you back to some dates. We understand from correspondence that some councils, maybe the county and district, did know on February the 7th about the proposal to stand up the U Lodge as an asylum seeker hotel. We heard this officially, no, but not officially, sorry, informally. The clerk received this informally on February the 13th, Monday, February the 13th, but it wasn't an official communication from the Home Office or from Leicestershire County Council or from the District Council. Is that correct? That's correct. So inevitably, when you get what is fairly, it's a serious report, but it's a report, you try and check it out. So we spent a day or two doing that, and by February the 15th, Art felt that she had enough evidence that this was a serious thing to tell other councillors, other parish councillors. So we informed other parish councillors late on Wednesday, February the 15th. Then we still didn't know what to do with it, really. What do you do with it if you're a council with very limited responsibilities for playgrounds, parks, and so on, and planning and commenting on planning applications? What do you do if you've nothing official from anywhere above you? However, the news got out, and I'm pleased it did. As you know, by Friday, February the 17th, Facebook was alive and hot. This council doesn't have a media policy, but I choose to engage with residents in a civil, I hope, and proper way on Facebook. That's going above and beyond what many chairs of parish council will do. And I wasn't always speaking, often not speaking, in the capacity of chair of this council. So from Friday, I tried to do that. By Saturday, February the 18th, Councillor Carol Sewell and I, Carol, partly in her role as district councillor and as parish councillor, we went to see the general manager of the Yew Tree Lodge Hotel. In fact, on the Friday evening, I had gone to the Kegworth Hotel to find out whether they had any news of accepting asylum seekers because it had been mentioned on Facebook, and the answer was no. On the Saturday, we met with the general manager, who was at pains to tell us that no contract had been signed and that employees were in danger of losing their jobs because the hotel was doing so badly. The top line was very, very good, but the bottom line was awful, etc., etc. And decision we made on business grounds. Not a lot we can do in those circumstances, so I went away and talked to one or two colleagues and started to put together a letter to Robert Jenrick, the immigration minister, which finally hit the keyboard in a polished, proper fashion on Sunday evening, February the I have to look at the dates, I'm old. February the 19th. I won't read it all out to you, but it is important to note that this council was the very first of all the councils that are here, first, second, top tier, middle tier, bottom tier, the very first one to be proactive on this. I'm sorry to say it, I don't know if we've got the real press here or just unofficial media, whatever we've got, but that's how I feel, that we were the first. And because I taught maths, I did some numbers, and I got the 1:17 ratio for the village, which I think has been well publicised, and worked out from official figures of what the population of the country was, that across the country was probably 1 to 170. So I thought this was disproportionate, and I wasn't very happy. So in this letter, I mentioned those numbers to Robert Jenrick. It went also, by the way, to other councillors here, and it wasn't just me. I mean, we agreed that it was okay. Donna agreed it to go, and it went to our MP, Andrew Bridgen, to the Chief Executive of North West Leicestershire Council, and to the leader of the County Council. There was a bit of a mismatch there, but that was, you do these things with a leader and Chief Executive meetings. I mentioned that we are a rural area with limited services, that although we're relatively close to the cities that you know of, that we didn't have access to their public services, nor to specialist refugee asylum support that these conurbations may have. And perhaps more tellingly, because we all get emotive about lots of issues in our lives, the failure by the Home Office, Serco and Yew Lodge Hotel to make plans openly and transparently with the Kegworth community representatives. And I said it was a flawed and unwise approach to planning anything. And there seemed to be no regard at all for the impact on relationships between the government, the hotel, and the traditionally warm-hearted community. And because you've heard a lot of me now, I'll have to cut to the chase, won't I? But I mean, what I say is that Kegworth was ready, is ready, and is now ready to welcome its fair share of asylum seekers. And I think perhaps on that note, because I've done all the talking, unless councillors think, Donna, have I covered most of the things we said we were?
I think the only other thing we raised was about planning, whether the applications have gone through to the change of use. That's the only other thing that-
That was by the Sunday evening, and I didn't finish, thank you, I didn't finish my dates, because of course people, the village have been incredibly helpful. There have been people writing to the Home Office with freedom of information requests. These are not all things that are seen. Some people put things on Facebook loudly and openly. Some people work behind the scenes. There's been a huge team effort, but planning was something that somebody raised. And a lot of us have been looking at it. We've looked at the House of Commons Library, which talks about all the other councils that have gone to law with it and had things kicked out by the High Court. The outstanding case of Great Yarmouth, which has seafront hotels, and that it said there's an effect on the local economy in seaside locations. We've done all of that as a third tier, bottom amateur almost, with a part-time clerk council. So I must emphasise that more than anything else. I'm sorry it's a long statement. So planning was added, and we rewrote the other things we did to finally say, I should have said that. We talked to East Midlands councils on the Monday, the 20th, in the morning. They said, don't go to the media. By the afternoon, the contract had been signed. I know that now. That was Monday the 20th. Wednesday the 23rd, we prepared a press release and we sent it to the media. And some of you will have seen that in Leicestershire Live and so on and so forth. It got round eventually, and that listed things like the planning and the doctor's surgery and the fire at Gotham and all the other impacts that we thought were relevant, and most of all, again, the lack of consultation. That coincided with what I thought was a rather late joint letter from the leaders of Leicestershire County Council and North West Leicestershire District Council, which I was not, as chair of this council, invited to sign, nor did I know it was being prepared. It did mention Kegworth, and it did mention some of the issues, but that was 3 days after the contract had been signed. Our letter went to Robert Jenrick, albeit just the day before. We have no replies, have we, from the Home Office or from anybody in an official position to our communication. Is that correct?
Just the MP that responded. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And so the MP has been quite been in touch with us, especially latterly. Of course, we started having the first arrivals at the hotel on the 27th. I did an interview with BBC Radio Leicester on Tuesday the 28th last week. That has never seen the light of day, and that was a lot of other residents were interviewed by BBC as well on that day, and very few of those albeit just chat, have actually been used by the BBC. Any of you listen will know what sort of things were put out last week, and that's been very frustrating, I think, for us as a council. That you know we've been doing all this, and to some extent you get no thanks for it.
Just to also say, Ray, the Chief Executive at North West Leicestershire she's confirmed that they are seeking independent advice around the planning issue. So we have had a response.
So by Thursday, when Donna was going to go on her long weekend, let's be honest, we're real people here. We thought we should be doing something else because it was a week after our press release. Unfortunately, we did have a communication from our MP, which is included in our statement. I'm quite happy to remind people, if they don't know, of some of the detail in that, although we happen to think that well, I think things have moved on again. They move on quite quickly. Do you think it's worth highlighting anything from that one? It's published.
It's on the website, it's on Facebook, I'm sure you
and in that includes, and the MP has said he would take forward, people will be preparing some corn and Earl Shilton and the hotel in Northamptonshire. These are all things that we found for ourselves and researched early on. I can almost tell you the story. I put Stoke-on-Trent on a website on Facebook today. We've done all this above and beyond the duty of a parish council, but we're still happy to take further questions and criticisms if necessary, which we will make a note of, and there'll be comments. But there's very few unanswered questions that we can give answers to, but we're very happy to receive them.
Question one.
No, right, no, so the lady there
Well,
will
please ask, do you really believe, to quote yourself, Kegworth is ready to take its fair share of asylum seekers? Do you believe that?
one at a time, please, and will you please indicate? I will take the gentleman's question. He was the third one he didn't indicate, but I will take the gentleman's question. Do we think that Kegworth is ready to receive these,
Its fair share,
its fair share? Well, I think I will answer that because I think when I've used the word disproportionate right from the start and worked out the numbers right from Sunday the 19th and sent them back to the Home Office, I think it's fairly clear that I'm saying that 1 to 17 is not a fair share. So I think it's fairly obvious. And everybody's been talking about lack of services. I quoted the parts to you actually from the letter about our rural area with limited services from that letter. So I think, in a sense, I've answered it. But I'm sorry if you don't feel that, but we can't enter into a dialogue now. Is that so? I'm not asking you to.
Haven't remotely answered me. I said, do you really believe Kegworth is ready to take its fair share of asylum seekers, as you quoted?
Could you make a note of that, Donna? And councillors will decide whether there is a further question to answer.
I'm really
Unless any councillor wants to chip in.
I'm really not sure what actually,
Amy Linton.
I'm really not sure what answer that you're actually looking for. I mean, it's entirely possible
just
that.
To clarify, the gentleman, Mr. Ray Sutton.
Councillor Ray Sutton in this instance, it's not personal. Councillor Ray Sutton.
Councillor Ray Sutton.
As opposed to Mr. Ray Sutton.
That Kegworth, representing Kegworth, is ready to take its fair share of asylum seekers. So okay. Is Kegworth really ready? The representation outside there, is Kegworth really ready, in your belief?
The situation that we've got is
Yes or no?
not acceptable.
Is Kegworth really ready to take on its fair share of asylum seekers?
Now I'm going to intervene as chair at this point because we have got standing orders to follow.
Understood. Thank you. I'll take that as a no answer.
And well, you can take things, but when people take things, they are actually jumping the gun.
Well, answer it then.
I am going to, as chair, say I have already. This is already becoming a free for all, and I am not prepared as chair to have it.
How convenient. Convenient. As soon as they don't like it, it's a free for all.
If I can jump in and try to
Yeah, that'd be really appreciated.
Right.
Thank you.
So the 1 to 17 is based on 250 asylum seekers come in.
I get the ratio.
Yep.
Ratios, yeah.
And we have said that's disproportionate. Basically, we're saying that's more than other places around the country, and it's probably too many for Kegworth services because we don't have access to services like that. From the protests that I've seen, people are mainly concerned about two things: the lack of communication about this, how suddenly it's all come on, and no one's been bothered, and the sheer number of people that,
What about the kids? Protection of the kids. What about the kids?
But those things are linked. The number of people is linked to, if people feel unsafe. Because
So the council, you guys, have quoted that Kegworth is ready to take its fair share of asylum seekers. I disagree with that. Absolutely disagree with it. The majority of people out there disagree with it. So it was a very simple question. Do you guys really believe Kegworth is ready to take its fair share of asylum seekers, irrespective of the ratio?
As chair, I cannot have you running the meeting.
Well, I want to present.
I think it's fairly clear that you're trying to run the meeting. We have heard your comment. I've asked Donna to write it down. 2 councillors have tried to answer. If you weren't satisfied with my answer, right? You're quoting things like majority actors and so on. And I took your question without you having indicated. I've given you a lot of time, and I would like to move to some of the. There are people indicated. The lady there, please. Yes. Well, can you give us your name and stand up, please?
No answer.
Andrea Wilson.
No answer.
Andrew Wilson.
Live around the cross. And I just wondered, because I have no idea of the protocol or anything, I just wondered what we can possibly do officially to try and stop this, because it's like, all we can do is come and stand there and it does no good, because the BBC won't cover it. So you don't get any coverage nationwide. There's villages all around that's having the same problem, but it's not being linked. So how can we get it out there that this is happening nationwide and do it officially? Have we got any way of standing up against what's happening? Do we write to somebody? Do we email somebody? Just what can we do? What's the next
Thank you,
step?
Andrea, very much. Thank you for your question. And we've put up there the email addresses, the best ones we've been thinking of. I obviously, I don't feel I've got the message across tonight, that we've been doing this.
Yes, no, I
solidly
appreciate
for a
that.
fortnight. But those are the only, so we haven't had responses from these people. We've had some response from Andrew Bridgman. He's spoken in Parliament again on Friday, was it, about asylum seekers. I get the frustration. I get the frustration that I've expressed about being interviewed by BBC and they're not getting the message across about this. But it is possible for people trying to represent the community to also feel, I mean, I use the word dumped on.
Yeah.
It is possible for that frustration to be felt by publicly elected representatives as well. I've had conversations with lots of people, publicly elected representatives as well, in Long Eaton, for instance, which of course in San Diego, they do have a ratio, well, they've got 2 hotels close together, and their ratio is not quite as bad as ours, depending on whether you count the whole of San Diego or just a bit below the A52. But I mean, it's still a similar case, and this happened in the autumn, and they've been through all this, and they feel just the same way that they have been dumped upon. They wonder whether they've been, well, I sometimes use the word stitched up, because it always feels as though there should be somebody who was consulted who did know. And we've been accused of that. And we're only people who put our hand, you know, all right, technically we've been elected. None of us have actually been to a ballot box because there weren't enough people wanting to stand. And I hope there's a dozen this time, so we have an election in
No, I
May.
appreciate all
You
the
know,
work you do.
yeah, I'm just trying to put it in context.
Yes.
I was just saying, it's a parish council, we're all people who live in this village.
Yeah,
We're ordinary people, okay? We've got very limited powers. You know, we're responsible for the cemeteries, the play areas, you know, some benches, some allotments, a few bits and bobs. In terms of what powers we have, all we can do is lobby higher authorities, speak to people. That is all that we can do. If somebody knows something else that we can do, then I'm willing to hear
I just
it.
wondered
But
if you had any advice that we, as people, individuals, that we could do, all of us ourselves.
I mean, lawfully,
individually.
all we can do is lobby people up the chain. This comes from Westminster.
You keep on saying me, the one saying what can we do?
Yeah,
That's the people
I'm not
in
asking
Kegworth.
you to do it. I'm just saying if you have
So
any
the
advice.
people do the same.
But I think collectively as council, it's difficult to see what we, you, us, what we lawfully can do at the moment, other than lobbying the Home Office and the.
If we all do the same with those 3 addresses we've got up there, hopefully in Kegworth, somebody might start to take notice. We're not expecting you guys to do it.
No, I mean, that is correct. I mean, that is something you can proactively do.
And could we sort of quote like what an acceptable amount is? Somebody out there said that Kegworth should only have 10. With our numbers, we should only be allowed to have 10.
Well, there's been a discussion on Facebook, and I don't think Olivia Bruce is in here at the moment, but you know, I've had civilized exchanges yet last night, and we agree on around 25. It's probably the proportions amount if every community in the country was getting the same. I mean, I doubt if anybody can guarantee that, but one minute the Home Office says it's appropriate to use hotels, and then the next minute it seems to say it's not appropriate to use hotels. It's those inconsistencies.
Yeah.
So I always say we're ready to welcome 25. Okay. But we've already welcomed. We don't know how. I don't know. As I sit here, I don't know how many asylum seekers we have welcomed.
I do, and we've got them all by Thursday. Sorry, they're all coming in. They'll all be here for Thursday. I've just found out.
200.
Or 250.
250.
Yeah, by Thursday.
Okay.
I've just found that out.
You see, I mean, I think I have to say that I share your frustration about information. I'm pleased you said that. Because it's all, when you don't have information, you don't know what to believe. And today I found somebody who knows an awful lot more than I do, because they're in touch with Serco, who run the contract. And you know that, I think, don't you, that Serco run these contracts in the East Midlands anyway. They're different companies in different parts of the country. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be in touch with Serco. It's actually somebody who's been trying to support, and you know, I mustn't leave out the needs of asylum seekers. I know there are some people who would want me to do that, but somebody who's been in touch with the needs of asylum seekers in another community. So Serco said, oh, well, you know, why don't you come and try and support the asylum seekers in Kegworth? And so that person knew an awful lot more than I did. I'm not prepared to divulge it now because it wouldn't be appropriate. Because it was told that, just as you've shared it here now, I'm not going to start sharing what nobody. We have to work on official information, don't we? And that's not often understood. I might put something on Facebook, but I cannot speak for the council unless Donna has had that officially. And that's been a real problem. A real problem. We don't actually have anybody to speak for the Home Office today, or because everybody says we didn't know and we never were consulted.
So assuming the fair share that you thought Kegworth was prepared to, is ready for, or possibly 25.
I'm really sorry, Amy. The gentleman here has been indicating for ages. And there's two other people indicating.
Is Kegworth now ready for 10 times the amount that you did believe that we were ready for?
Irrespective of what we may think or not think, somebody else has made a decision of what the number is, and
No,
that's 250.
I agree.
So
I just don't want you guys representing me or a lot of my friends saying that we are ready, because we're not. We're not ready. The village is not ready.
As a council, okay?
Absolutely.
But any comment that I make or Ray makes isn't the comment of the council.
The village isn't ready for 25.
Well, okay.
Let alone 10
That's
times.
your
I'm
opinion.
sorry. I'm sorry if I may speak. I only can call you Amy because I can't remember your other name. You know, but Amy, I know you asked the same question, and I know you're not happy with our answer. And I respect. Well, okay, you're not happy with anything. But will you please let other people have a turn?
Absolutely, yeah.
The gentleman here has been waiting for ages, sir.
I'm quite willing, but okay, so
You understand you tell me who you are. Thank you.
okay. So I'm Wayne Kidgey, and I've been a resident in the village for about 2 years.
Thanks for
I
that.
think-
Well,
I
that's
think-
helpful. Thank you.
Chair, I actually think the councillor is focusing something that's slightly wrong about the feeling in the village. Yeah? Okay, there's people in the village who have been affected by what's happened at the hotel. Loss of facilities, loss of jobs. Yeah, that to actually sum it up the way you did was maybe slightly wrong about the feeling in the village. My point is, and I spoke to somebody on the phone today. Yeah, Donna. There's a meeting next week. I want the councillors on behalf of the village, but with what political persuasion you are to actually offer the village, and send a letter to Mr. Bridgen, Andrew is somebody, yeah, stating the fact that it's been on open media, on social media, about the donations from the Yew Tree Lodge, Best Western. I think that's dirty money. We've got people, apparently, I was told, there's one person who lives in the village who, in a time of hardship and recession, has been made unemployed through no fault of their own. There's a donation on there of £3,500, yeah? I think we asked for that, for him to either donate it to charity or to the parish council to either help this person out who's got maybe in financial difficulty, might not have money to feed the children, might go to a food bank somewhere, we don't know. I don't know. Right? But also, we had 20 litter pickers down Long Lane on Saturday at least. I walked my dog down there, spoke to a few of them, yeah? Yeah, spoke to a few, right? To me, also, you're asking for funds for Remembrance Sunday to close the road off. Apparently it cost so much, I've seen earlier on, maybe a couple of months back. Let's prick his conscience, yeah? Let's write to him and think this is dirty money is accepted in behalf of the electorate in this village, yeah? I think they ought to ask, maybe he thinks that he ought to donate it either to a charity or to this parish council to further work, and maybe find out of this, whether this person is in hardship, and maybe he can donate the grant.
Thanks for that, Wayne, very much indeed. I'm taking it, just clarifying here, you don't have to worry about next week, I'll talk, but I'm taking it as tonight, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm taking it that you're asking us, the best we can do is to convey to Andrew Bridgen that this point has been raised this evening in our public session here, because John and I talked about it. It was really helpful to have you call earlier on. So that's what I'm taking you're asking.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
it's parish council acting on behalf.
we would convey that message as a parish
And I
council.
think
That's
also,
the least we can do.
And I think also, right, that goes into the open public space. Because I've got no question about volunteers. I volunteer myself, yeah, and I understand your position. There's only so much you can do. And a lot of the feeling out there is actually with you as to what you've done. But I think putting something in the public domain and saying this is a question we're asking our MP, Mr. Bridgen, Andrew, Sunday night, yeah, dirty money. That's what it is.
We may
And
not
it
use
looks-
that in our letter, but
Well,
you're on record as saying it, I think, somewhere. So, okay.
Dirty money it is.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I think it's, there you are, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Rob Pritchard. I used to be a parish councillor, but I'm not. The gentleman here has pointed out that we should be doing something. Everybody in this room should be doing exactly the same thing, sending correspondence or whatever, emails, whatever to those people. But there's another one. There's another one. It's Bertie Harrison Rushton, who's the district councillor for the area where the hotel is. He's not here tonight. I don't know why. Is he? Oh, right. There he is. Oh, good. I didn't realise. There must be an election due, I assume. But anyway, I think we should all send him an email, because he is sitting on the district council, which is the planning authority for that place up there. And we're not sure whether they've broken planning rules by doing what they've done. But let's ask him to ask them to find out whether they've broken any planning rules and straighten it out. Fairly sharpish as well. Thanks.
I think we should let Councillor Harrison Rushton, if he wants to do,
Yes.
to reply.
Well, I don't want to take over from your meeting.
I'm sorry, we should have given you a seat higher up. As they
No,
say.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I think, Rob, as Donna said, the planning authority is being expert advice on that. I did convey that to them, and we're waiting to hear back. As soon as we hear back, Alison is in touch with Donna, and as soon as that information comes through, make sure it's heard. But I think the point here tonight didn't take away from your meeting, Chair. It's really just so I can sit, meet residents, and just listen. So I don't intend to take over any more airtime. But thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for making their views heard. And if anyone wants to have a conversation outside this meeting, I'm happy to pick up the phone another day or email. But as I said, I don't want to disrupt from your meeting tonight in any way, shape or form. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. So just a reminder that Bertie or Carol will be happy to see people if there ever is an end to this evening, or get in touch with them tomorrow. And I should have said that Andrew Bridgen did actually, or his office did send his apologies in the sense that it's parliamentary sitting day, Monday, couldn't be here. I don't think we've heard anything from our county council. Correct? No. So I think, yes. Val.
Hi, mine's a comment. My name's Val Schwalbe. I've been resident of Kegworth for almost 66 years, and I agree that it's too many people coming into the village. At the same time, they are human beings, and a lot of the stories that are going around just are not true. And there is another large group within the village who are offering help and support to the asylum seekers. Try and integrate them, give them something to do so that they're not doing people walking around the village. We welcome new members to that as well. Thank you.
Is there any contact for that for anybody who wants to be involved?
We're going to set up a Facebook site, I think, soon, so they'll be able to get to there. But they can have my number if anybody wants to join.
Thank you for that. that. I can't remember. You've had one go, Andrew. We'll have the gentleman in the corner. If you could, thank you.
All right, Peter Kegworth, living on Watton Road. Just a quick one about policing in the village. I've lived here for 3.5, almost 4 years. I've not seen any police until the last 2 weeks. Can I just ask the question? If I went to a football match or a rugby match or anything, policing will be paid for by the people that cause it. So the football ground, the football team will pay for the policing. Why is Mr. Pick not having to pay for all this policing? Because he brought it on the village, so he should be paying for it. Let's hit him in the pocket. That's what we need to do. He should be paying for all the policing. Yeah.
I think with that, I'm not just consider. I'm not. I think I was going to take that as a comment, but I think it's a very, you know, like many people would want to say, where does the cost of policing come from in particular situations? And I don't think it. Well, that any councillor wants to do more on that. I think we just take that as a comment, because one of the frustrations is, again, the fact that once a contract is signed, the owner doesn't have any responsibility. And again, not officially, I certainly have been pressing him to try and make a statement. You know, there have been questions about, you know, how many people have lost their jobs, all these other things, and you know, lots of factual things that he should be saying. And he's not saying them because he signed his contract and he's got his money. We shouldn't be saying these things, but people do. This is how the world works. You know, if you make a business decision, you benefit from it. And, you know, believe me, many of us are saying the same thing, but I don't think, you know, on that particular policing point, we can really go any further. It doesn't look as though the owner is going to make any statements. He already had one hotel, not as close to the centre of the village. All these points have been made in different settings by me, if not officially on behalf of the parish council. And that Kegworth is a completely different situation. And it's clearly, I mean, obviously Andrew Bridgen says he is in understanding it was not going to happen in September when it was first mooted, and it's just happened. And everybody seems to think that they didn't know it was going to just happen. All Best Western owners, it's a brand, of course, it's just a cover brand. So because they're all independent across the country, they're all, you know, all the owners nearly of Best Westerns will have been approached, I think, by their Sercos or whoever they've got with offers, and he's decided to take it up. So that's fair enough. I mean, it's a dimension uncovered, so I'm just going on a bit. But I haven't got any other answer to your question. I don't think, if you think there's anything the parish council should be doing in that respect anymore, please just come back now.
But surely if you're being asked to pay for shutting the road policing, surely he should be paying for this. He should be paying for all these police. Community support officers outside schools, he should be paying for it. And the only thing you're going to do is to hit him in the pocket. So we need to, I don't know who we can get in touch with, whether get in touch with the police to find out what it's cost so far for the policing and billing for it.
Well, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about how police budgets are allocated. This council is certainly not contributing to any policing costs. You know, when you said you were paying for the road to be closed.
No,
so
the gentleman said earlier that for Remembrance Sunday, you were going to have to pay to have the roads closed. Is that not correct?
Just correct that. Remembrance Sunday, you don't have to pay to use the road. We support mentally, but it's something like Christmas market that you have to do to close the road. No, that's not policing in the same.
Standard traffic regulation order, and one Kegworth for the whole of the year gets a single order, which costs less doing it that way, don't it, for all the events.
And the policing comes through your council tax bill, doesn't it? So
Exactly.
Is it the council?
Well, it's a separate amount, but it's not like our precepts is a separate amount. The fire authority is a separate amount.
And I think what you need to appreciate is this contract with U Lodge is a contract from the government.
Dirty money, mate.
It's a contract from the government. So at the end of the day, as taxpayers, we pay for everything anyway.
I understand that, but if I was going to pay for the security outside there all the while, who's paying for that? Is that coming out of his money, or is that coming out of our pot?
The hotel, U Lodge, it's the Serco operation, so it's all Serco security. It's all part of the Serco contract. Right, Andrea, you're very patient. I should have let you put your hand down. But yeah,
I
go.
don't even know if it's relevant or whether you want to know it, but Serco are offering people to put their houses up for sale money to buy them. There's one next door to
Sorry,
me.
I didn't hear that. The traffic.
Serco are
I think I
offering.
got hearing aids. When you say
Serco are offering people that have got their houses up for sale money to buy their houses
over and above.
over and above the asking price.
And that's their policy.
I've done it to
Yeah.
my neighbour,
Yeah.
my adjoining neighbour in an old person's bungalow. I don't want people like that living next to me. How can you stop that?
We can't, can we? If it's a private sale, you can't.
Is that not a question though for if this councillor here is above this level of councillors here, right, and that's been made, but they're circumventing basically law and planning, because part of the planning is apparently, but if it has an impact and the value of the property goes down, yeah, part of the contract, but Serco are now, if that's the case, are circumventing that part of the law, suit themselves.
Point of clarification, I mean, I don't know what the provenance of this information is, but Serco are buying properties for the purpose of.
Putting asylum seekers in them.
So if they were putting asylum seekers in what was a private residence, okay, that would make it effectively a HMO, which would be subject to planning, so it would have to go through a planning process.
Yeah.
And be approved. I mean, I may be wrong on that one, but that sounds like a HMO to me because you have unrelated people multiply occupying a premise. But we've got chapter 4.
We've got one on the agenda tonight.
If it was a 3-bedroom property and 3 people lived in that house, it would not need to be a HMO.
It would be because you've got Article 4.
3 unrelated people living in your house, they have to apply. So at the very least, you can notify first.
So it wouldn't need a planning application.
Because it would need a planning
In
application.
some places it does, because we chose it always does.
It
It doesn't everywhere. Here it does.
But
It's
isn't
merely a
the
means of
point,
getting it to come to planning when it wouldn't normally come to planning.
but isn't the point that Serco are actually sort of paying over market price to get around the planning?
No, it doesn't get, they've still got to go through.
Not on an HMO, what I'm talking about, what they've done up at the lodge, yeah? It says something about the impact on residents nearby, some comment on social media. So what they're doing, they're circumventing the law in a sense by paying over the market odds. So there's no questions about the value of the house and an impact on, like an impact assessment on the people who are living opposite the hotel, yeah? Because if the property went down, you've got an objection, I believe, under planning. So what they're doing, they're circumventing the law by paying over to get around that, to actually undermine fundamentals to me. And I think that's a matter for this guy here.
No, yeah, it's a point. It's well worth investigating. Really. You know, no question. No, please share that information and get back to you.
I think if somebody, I know it's hard because if somebody's agreed to it, they're not going to, there'll be a gagging clause to say they're not allowed to talk. But I mean, if it's possible to put us in touch with a particular person and or ourselves with a particular case where we can, you know, investigate it further, that would be helpful.
Yeah, well, he has said that he wouldn't do it to us, the person who's leaving the house. He said he won't take it. But it's happening in other people's, because I mentioned it to somebody and they said, oh yeah, they're putting an offer in for somebody else as well.
Well, it's new to us. I'm getting the feeling it's new to everybody. So thank you for alerting us to it. But I'm seeing nods around the room. I don't think anybody's come across this before.
No.
So it's the sort of thing that we're dealing with, not just in a big meeting like this, which everybody's interested in, but we deal with these things as best we can. And we look at what our rights are and what we can do all the time. And we'll be glad to hear from anybody, just as Wayne got in touch with us today. Get in touch with Donna.
Thank you.
Hi.
Right, sorry, thank you.
Thank you, just a quick one.
Give us your
My
name.
name's Nicola, so I have a concern about the other hotel. So for me, this feels a little bit like the middle of the wedge. So we've got people that come in and they're in contracts. What kind of protection can we have, or can the parish council be proactively managed that the other hotel doesn't also sign a contract? Because actually that's what's happened in the meeting, hasn't it? We've got two hotels now. I'm sure it started out as one hotel. For me, you know, this is what's happening now, and it'll be managed however it's managed, and we'll protest. But actually, what is going to happen in 6 months' time? What's going to happen in a year's time? And actually, that does keep me awake at night. Actually, we'll then have two hotels in Kegworth, because why not? Got one, just fill up the other one.
And in
A
fact,
hotel next to.
Yeah.
and it's a good point, because in fact, because we would be well above long each, they were near to long each ratio now, and they started with the Best Western, and then they went on to the Novotel a fortnight later, I'm informed today.
Yeah.
You know, so it is a very good point, and I think, could we write, Donna, to, I don't know who we write to specifically name that, so that it's on an agenda. We'll write to as many as we can think of, including, well, as we did on the February the 19th with January, we'll write up to all and all we can. Sometimes wish I could discuss these things with Suella Braverman personally. That would be rather nice, wouldn't it? It'd be rather nice. Make my life a lot easier than everybody else's. When?
So obviously you said that Andrew, yeah. Next week we've got a council meeting, parish council meeting,
I'll
yeah.
come to that again.
And you've invited him, but already you've stated he's got parliamentary business on
Tonight,
Yeah.
and next week.
And next week, so he's declined, yeah, so he's shoved us. So I would basically say from that, yeah, we need to put pressure on him. Okay, he's up for election at some time or another.
You might just move it from a Monday, so he can attend.
I think we'll turn to this other meeting now just to clarify it, and then Donna can come in after me. But it is hard for people to, when I got onto the council, I couldn't understand annual parish meetings either, so there's no criticism here. It's ancient, all this legislation. I think it probably dates back to the time when parishes, civil parishes, were separated from church parishes or something. But it is a requirement in law that every parish, that's the area, right, has an annual parish meeting. It is the parish council's duty to call that meeting. That's all we have to do. And I think am I obliged to give a report, probably, of what we've been doing. But it isn't a meeting of this council. It is a meeting for the village, for the parish. And I happen to give a chair's report. And I'm afraid if you're there, you'll hear from me again. It'll be boring, but I'll try. I'll write you some printed copies, and it'll be about the year of what we've done in a year. I know this is the one that matters, but that'll be one item, and there's an agenda already published, isn't there? And it covers, what does it cover? Can you remember offhand?
We've asked district councils to report, county councils to report, the police to give reports.
This is standard stuff.
It's all standard stuff, and then there's a section, agenda item 6, I think, which is questions. So it is parish meeting, it's your meeting. You can raise any questions that you want answers to, and parish council will try and facilitate that. The answers won't necessarily come from us, but you know, we'll try and find the answers for you.
The question is, can it be moved? So
it can't, unfortunately, because it's published the date of the meeting.
I encouraged Andrew Bridgen to hold his own meetings.
So I suggest we encourage that he organises his own.
Would it be this meeting's wish to write to Andrew Bridgen and say that he should organise his own meeting on a Friday?
Yeah.
Could you do that, Donna?
Yeah.
But we've done it last week, really, anyway, in a sense, because the annual parish meeting, you're all welcome, and I hope that people will support it, and we'll have reports from organisations in the village. Let's not lose sight of what the village does. I've already seen the park volunteers report. It's fantastic. Somebody mentioned the litter picking, the Christmas market. Let's not forget what a wonderful village this is. And all that will be there, but there is a chance for questions. It's not quizzing us, really, though we will, like tonight, we've tried to be open and honest, and we'll try and facilitate, and we'll do that again next week. But it's not us on show, really. It's the village's meeting. That's why the district councillors, the county councillors, the police will have to give a report there. We've got police on our agenda today. It's the standard February report, which incidentally does include incidents involving travellers, for those, because it goes up to February the 28th, for those who are already thinking what. Right, so I'm trying to give you the flavour of what the annual parish meeting is about. We can't change it because we're not allowed to. It's all been set, and it wouldn't. It would still be the same agenda, wouldn't it? Today.
It would be the same agenda.
So I think what's been agreed here together, that we write to the MP and invite him to hold his own meeting. Am I okay, councillor?
Yeah,
So, I should be consulting you more. I'm looking over there instead of around here. Is that all right? Right, I don't know whether we're getting towards the end, but I'm happy with the tone of this meeting as it's gone along. It's been really great. So I'm going to keep it going as long as we need to do. So, this gentleman.
Just a question for next week's parish meeting. Is it too late for village organisations to get onto the agenda to make a presentation?
What we've asked village organisations to do is to give us an A3 sheet with information about what you've been doing, what it is you want to tell people about, and we're going to put it around the room so that it will be available. We can't have every village organisation giving a presentation because the meeting would just go on too long. I don't think people would want that. But if you want to give us something to display and you can be there with it and explain it to people, draw people's attention to it, then that's fine.
Okay. Reminder of each village organisation is your big moment of glory tonight.
Kegworth Heritage Centre.
Heritage
The
Centre.
old museum.
Of course, yeah. Desperate need for volunteers, I know.
Well, we're having
Yeah.
we're having an open day on Friday for potential volunteers if they want to come and see where we're at and what we're doing.
Excellent. Thanks for that. That's useful. Thank you.
Again, quoting social media, it's basically stated that Derby City Council, Nottingham City Council, and I believe Leicester, okay, have basically said they want to move all the refugees, such like, out of the city into rural areas. Okay, so basically there's going to be an amalgamation of these councils or maybe considered. So in a sense, if that's a policy of all three of them, how does the council and the councillors seeing that impacting us as a village?
Councillor, before I reply.
They're ready for it. They're ready for it.
So,
They're already quoted.
sorry, Eddie, just
The village is ready for
hang on
it.
a minute, hang on. Councillors, may I reply to that more or less using what we've tried to do and also my own feelings about it, how it's been presented in the meeting?
Well,
Andrew, you reply to it.
I've heard it said. I don't know whether that's actually true or not. I mean, I've got an open mind on it. I don't actually know the answer to that one. I've not seen anything that's been official policy that's been set out by any of these organisations.
I had an email confirmation that there is no policy to move asylum seekers into places. They haven't got a written, I asked for a copy of a formal written policy that said that's what should be happening.
But at the end of the day, there's Leicester County, Leicester City, Derby City, Nottingham City. They're not in control of this. It's the Home Office and the Immigration Service. They are the ones who are running the show. They can do what they want. We don't have any power.
Just on that, so it's basically in a sense that the lecturers in them areas put forward somebody suitable to be basically a mayor of this amalgamation, yeah. And I believe that's the leader of the council in Nottingham, who's put himself forward. Lovely bloke, full of waffle, and he's made a good job at Nottingham, you know. And 17 million they put aside for something what then they had to upset.
Sorry, I'm keeping as brief as
So
you can.
the thing is,
I mean, you know,
yeah,
keep it
so
brief.
the thing is,
I've
obviously,
lost the question myself now, beyond where you were.
so the thing is, as again, the question was, how do you see that maybe impacting? If that's the case, and these all out, how do you see that affecting the village of Kegworth?
I think it would, and I think it's relevant to the question about the Kegworth Hotel as well, and I think it's all tied up together. And I mean, for my 2 pence, which I was trying to get their permission, so it's a personal view. I think you may have seen East Midlands today on Tuesday last week, which was the day, interesting enough, that I gave my radio interview to BBC Radio Leicester. The first part of it was talking heads from Long Eaton, which was, I thought, fine. Then we went on to the Bishop of Leicester, and you may or may not agree with the Bishop of Leicester. I happen to think he talked quite a sense. He tries to tell people why this is happening. And then they went on to the studio. They might have had a couple of Kegworth people. I'm not sure on that comment because Kegworth. And then they started talking exactly about what you're saying. It seemed to be they're putting up the figures for Derby and Nottingham and Leicester. And I thought, hang on, they're beginning to talk about moving into rural areas here. And then blow me, they went to the fourth bit to a spokesman for East Midlands councils who seemed to be almost saying what you've said. This is the policy, and that's why I asked Donna to write to.
Your comment, right?
That's why I asked Donna to write to them. Was it the following day, wasn't it? Yeah, Wednesday. It was Wednesday. It was Wednesday, and they came straight back, didn't they, with the reply that you said. So I'm only being as open and honest person.
I think I got it off your comments, right? To be fair, that's why I asked the question.
All right. Well, go in the middle of all that, but okay. But that, let's keep that personal, because Andrew disagrees, so that's fine. We don't always agree as councillors. Anybody else want to chip in on whether rural areas are being conspired against? But I think added, we've had this alert about the criminal hotel, so it's a very, very good point, I think.
I do think mostly people are alarmed that it's all young men and not families. I think if it were families, they'd be accepted and helped.
Yeah.
But because it's all this young men, what do normal young men do when they're that age? They don't.
Well, I think this is the problem. I mean, in terms of what you say, what do young men of that age do? They do all sorts of things actually, and this is where we need to hear the personal stories. Now, I will. Many of you will differ from me. I like to hear personal stories. I've talked to a few people today, and some of people who might, think are very sympathetic, and yet I thought they didn't tell me much about themselves. I told you all about myself, and these young men have got stories. And somebody was telling me today, there are people who've already, as has been indicated, I think might be Val, there are people already starting to work with asylum seekers in Kegworth, and they know some of the personal stories. Somebody said, oh, if they're Afghanistan, and then it's fine, everybody was sympathetic. And of course, there are people there who are working for the UK government, and there are translators and people who speak English and Pashtun and all the rest of it. We can't prejudge because we haven't met and we don't know. And we don't know what their personal approaches to anything are. Somebody said, have they all got diseases? Is this bringing a lot of disease into the village? No, but you'll have, but somebody did. I don't come to you and say, have you brought disease into here now? We've got our right there in the corner still from COVID if you want to use it. It's just how we approach these things. And yes, and a lot of men together, and Don and I have had this discussion, haven't we? About, I said I get afraid when there's a lot of women together. But that's flippant because you told me off. You told me off, didn't you? You did tell me off. But I think you said all young men, didn't you? So somebody said they're all fighting men aged 18 to 40. I don't know whether they're all fighting men.
No.
Whether they're all
they were being sarcastic there, saying that they've left their families behind to fight for them.
Right.
While all these young men here without their wives and children.
The chimpanzee effect. If you've seen a chimpanzee in a zoo on its own, it's very cuddly. Beautiful thing. Have you seen chimpanzees fight together and tear each other's arms out? It's disgusting. Chimpanzees in a group is not good. And that's not racist.
No, I think all I'm saying, we learn to talk to one another. That's right. But I think you're right. I mean, the majority of the people that adopt to house are men. And they're young men.
Not chimpanzees. Human beings.
He didn't mean that. Anyway, are there any other questions? Because I think we've got our business to do, and you're very welcome to stay. Are there any questions more from public participation? Incidentally, I cannot take questions, any public questions after this, or public comments. We have to get on with our meeting.
We'll get anyway. One more edition.
And
Mr. Britain donates some money to the motocross circuit to give the kids somewhere to go. Take with village kids. Give them some money. Put up with it, guys.
Hang on, we've got one more question here. We've got one more question here. Just a minute.
Liz Johnson, and I've been 15 years. Apparently, our council tax is going up by 5%. Any chance that it doesn't because of what's going on? Have we got a
additional police
stand on
additional police
about not having an increase in our council tax? I mean, How do we fight that?
You're not to
The
that.
council tax for Kegworth precept is not going up at all. That was in the newsletter. So we've done the budget. And that means
Little tiny bit at the bottom.
I don't know what the county council and the district council are doing. I haven't heard that figures. So if it goes up, it won't be the parish council owned. But when you're setting the council tax, it's set very early. So in, like, for example, we set our budget in December and set the precept in January, way before we even knew this was happening, and whether it would have impacted it or not, because, you know, what would the cost of the parish council be? I don't know. So yeah, the Kegworth element of your precept is not going up. I can't speak for the council, is it not? Yes, the district isn't
The other bigger bits, the district and the county is the biggest bit, and the police is another little bit in the fire, but they're all set for the whole of Leicestershire. So Leicestershire Police is set for the whole of Leicestershire Police, not just Kegworth. And the fire is set for the whole of Leicestershire, and the county is set for the whole of Leicestershire. So
I think it's what the lady's trying to say, is the council tax is going up.
do we deserve a dividend? Yeah.
I don't know, please. Don't it have to be? And what is, so county council, we have to.
Okay, there's that part.
Yeah.
Wayne.
Just on, and you talk about planning, and I don't know whether this is covered on what planning is. Obviously, if Serco are buying properties in the village, and we don't know that yet, but I know on Long Lane on the Press Nicholson side, there's been an application already for an HMO.
We know.
Okay, apparently that's been ticked off by some people on environments and such right now. There's children opposite that house. So any impact on HMOs in the village, students and such like, not got anything against students, got 3 children of one currently, but all this has impacts on families. And I'm just wondering, obviously with Serco, and if that's what they intend doing, okay, our rates and such like for what is literally going to go up, it puts a school at risk with loss of facility of a leisure centre basically within the village, and we haven't got that now, that facility, because of what Mr. Pick and whoever Serco have done and the government. So what are we doing about how we're putting this forward and how we're monitoring what's going on when planning permission's gone in on that side, and then you've now got an application from somebody from Oxford has brought an house, right, to now make that an HMO, not for a family, yeah, 3-bed house.
Yeah, this council has spent a lot of time, and obviously we don't have well-attended meetings, unfortunately. We've spent a lot of time on the HMO issue, and I don't think probably tonight is time to go into detail, but we are concerned, take any particular group out of it, just the number of HMOs. And we've been to Charnwood and we've seen that they've got planning policies that talk about HMOs in the way North West Leicestershire, because remember Charnwood's a district, North West Leicestershire, so North West Leicestershire have not. So we've got a promise, haven't we?
Yeah, well, we have been in discussion with the planning authorities and the chief executive at North West Leicestershire, because what is called the local plan, which is for the district, is currently being revised, and we're saying there are no specific policies relating to HMOs, and we in Kegworth here have quite a unique situation. And maybe if you look around the country, if we've done some research, if you look at Charnwood, if you look at Birmingham, if you look at other places, they have implemented specific policies within their local plans. I mean, for an example, you put a dot in the map and say, if within 100 metres of that property, there's more than X% of HMOs, then that would be a ground for a refusal. It's a policy that, so you set some sort of limits or boundaries. But government and local government and all levels of government find a really slow place to face.
Unless they want something doing, and then it's very fast.
But in terms of planning policy and getting it into the local plan approved, it's a process that has many steps, and we're not in control of making that happen any faster, but we are actively pursuing things in that line.
I'm going to take these last two comments or questions now, Val first, and then I'm going to end the participation session, which has been a fantastic one, and I wouldn't want to, you know, to end on any other note. Val.
Just what about the covenant on Nolan?
There are covenants on the side from the developer, but that is down to the covenant is only a legally binding with the owner of the covenant. So it's
civil matter, not a public matter.
So I don't know what the upshot of that is. I mean,
and in any case, although we've talked to get to the bottom of this covenant, there's been a message gone around the village that there is a covenant. We found it very hard to get to the bottom of it as to what it really says and who put it in place and all the rest of it. So we've done what we can, but it's a civil matter, and it will take the person if the covenant exists to say we shouldn't have any HMOs on Slack and Park.
The covenant still exists.
Well, they'd have to take it up.
Because it's on the land registry. But it's still for the owner of the covenant.
Right, the other lady there. Sorry, I had to wait. Can you tell us your name?
I've been in the village for about 4.5 years. There's money.
Right.
And I just wanted to say, well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to hear such a balanced chair of the meeting and to feel quite included because I've never been here before. But secondly, I would like to say that somebody works in big social housing field. Do you think now is the time to think about sustainability? And in order to put forward a positive view of integration, because I'm all on the side of positive, I have a fantastic welcome into this village as a new person. And I celebrate the fact that this village is very warm and welcoming to everybody, and I hope it continue to be that way, whoever people are. But what I would like to say is, I know because I do it a lot myself, I work with local councils to put local plans in place to ensure that a sustainable and vibrant future is possible for the people who reside here. In terms of the makeup of the community, making sure we've got balance, making sure we've got infrastructure and local facilities and resources. It feels like people are quite scared about that at the minute and that we might just run out of balance. So can we just make the request for the future? It's a shame this man's gone. I was hoping to talk to him at the end of the meeting, the councillor that left, because I think he would be perfect to talk to us about. But I really do urge that we as a community look towards local planning, because it's absolutely possible. I've done it with lots and lots all over the place, and it really works.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. Do you want to answer, Donna? I think you know what I'm going to say anyway. So, all right. Well, we've got on our agenda, if we ever get to it, we've got a neighbourhood plan from a neighbouring parish, and this village is not so far considered having a neighbourhood. Sorry, is it neighbourhood plan? Is that the right word? Neighbourhood plan. I think with technically elections coming up, it might be something for the new council to decide whether it wants to embark on that. It's a complicated process, but the neighbouring village of Rockington and Hemmington are set as a fine example. They're a tiny band of councillors. It's a high quality local plan. There is a debate as to whether they really count for anything when you've done them and all the expense, but you get some support. So for those who really are in the village and really are interested, that is something we will think about, because it might well be. And I think to pick up Wayne's point about leisure earlier, which I did slightly miss about the loss of the facility, it wasn't a public facility at U Lodge, of course, but in fact this village is badly done to, and it is a district responsibility, of course, is leisure. I think that's a point worth mentioning somehow, Donna, you know, because we're forever talking to districts about the fact that, you know, the leisure centre in Colville is a long way away, etc., etc. What have they got in Castle Donington? You know, the college has been promised a swimming pool for years and has never got one. So I think it's a good time to at least somehow put together a letter talking about the fact that, you know, we've now got an emphasis on the need for leisure and a balanced community. And although it's a private facility, we've lost it to the private facility. We're already struggling for football pitches because of the HS2 embargo on the land by the M1 and so on. So I think it's a good time to do that. But there's the two things there: there's neighbourhood plan and there's leisure and balance.
I just say, councillor, a local plan is quite different to a neighbourhood plan. So I think.
Sorry, did I say local? I meant neighbourhood.
So I think neighbourhood plans are fantastic because they can bring all sorts of partnership resources together. I've got lots of money out of neighbourhood planning in the work that I do. But separately to that, I've also worked with councils to introduce local plans. And a local plan does have restrictions to it, and it does have powers. Believe me, I know, because I've been on the other side of the fence and not been able to do my work sometimes because of them. So, I mean, I'm quite happy to work with anybody.
Please be in touch with Donna.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to work.
Thank you. I hope that's it, folks, but you can stay if you wish. It's an interesting